Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and
Okay, I
clear.
don't have sound. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see if we're going to get sound here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
There we go. Well, at least we have sound.
Is it just sound?
Yeah, the students can't see you. I have the wrong dongle. They gave me one for my phone. I think what I'm going to do, so it'll be mostly audio. I wish you guys could see. I'm going to give them a little impression of you. That's Ernest. Say hi. He can see you.
Yeah, buddy.
So this will be mostly audio with you and me until I can get onto this little iPad here,
Okay.
and maybe we can get audio, video with everybody. But So we're going to work with how the technology is going. You're going to get to see it in a while. I'll probably just turn it around a little bit at least so that we can work this way.
This is actually how the beginning of pretty much every conference call or video call meeting that I've had the past year has gone. So no worries.
So if you guys can move over, just you four, so that I can stand here and we can talk. Sorry about the fluorescent lights and the forehead, shiny forehead.
No problem.
So let me make this full screen. I'm going to make this full screen. This way. I don't know how to make it full screen. We got as much screen as I think we're going to get.
Okay.
Ernest, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's the middle of the day and I'm not at work, so great.
I saw you with a neck brace on.
That was fake. That was just for the sketch.
Okay. Let me introduce my research team. That's Leela over there. I think you can't see her. She's out of the screen. Peek in. And Sharon, peek in. Say hello. Raise your hand so he knows. Chetan from India. Elaine from her mother. Earl. Jen. Amir. Karuna. Justin. Kaina, who I kept butchering her name as China the first couple of weeks, and Lottie. Did I miss anybody? Awesome. So I have some questions, but I think I want to start with you introducing yourself and what you do and how you got to work at YouTube Nation. And what is YouTube Nation?
Okay, so first I'll start with YouTube Nation, which is actually no more. It was a daily web show that was designed to show people the most worthwhile videos on YouTube each day. So each day for 5 minutes we would show an audience around the world usually the 6 or 7 videos that they could watch that would sort of be worth their time. So not necessarily the most viral videos, but the things that would sort of stick with you after you'd watched them, which sometimes includes viral videos.
Why is it no more? I loved it.
A lot of people loved it. I loved it, actually. But YouTube and DreamWorks, they spent a while sort of going back and forth over the details for what year 2 would be. And year 2 was supposed to have started last week, and they just never came to a good conclusion. So the show did not get renewed.
That sucks. This is like counter to the whole internet thing. You're supposed to be able to keep your little niche audience.
I know.
And how did you come to be at YouTube Nation in the first place?
So I've spent the last 6 years working in the internet as basically what some people refer to as a video curator. I started in 2008 working for a website called stupidvideos.com. Then in 2010, I became the senior editor for a website called break.com. And these are websites that are just dedicated really to finding videos that are going to be viral and pushing them out there. And so for 5 years, that's more or less what I did. Each day I would wake up, I would see the things that were either already big or building, and I would publish those, and then I would spend time each day just scouring the internet looking for these little things that nobody had seen that I thought were interesting that I could push out there and help make popular. And I ended up at YouTube Nation because I had sort of I was looking for a change of pace from being on sort of this viral treadmill, and everything that YouTube Nation was about was sort of the direction that I had been leading personally for the year leading up to my move over to this new project. So yeah, but more or less, I just have been working as a video curator for 6 years, and it's a job that I just accidentally landed in one day. Not much more to it, I guess.
Where did you go to school, and how did you accidentally land it?
I went to the University of Oklahoma, and I was a film and video studies major. And while I was there, I actually was part of a team that helped build what at the time was kind of a cutting-edge web portal called the Sooner Information Network. The way that I ended up in video curation is in the long gap between my graduating college and actually starting my career, which was about 5 or 6 years. I was in LA, and I was looking for a job as a video editor, and stupidvideos.com had an opening for a video editor. So I went and applied and interviewed for that job thinking that I was getting into sort of a more traditional video editing job, you know, creating videos. But instead, it was working as the editor of this website, and it was perfect because it brought together sort of all of my interests in one place, because I've always been interested in comedy and film and video. I've always been interested in the internet, and I've always considered myself a writer and a comedy writer. So I was able to sort of bring all of those things together in one package.
And what's going to be next for you? Do you know?
Yes, well, 95% sure. I'm going to go work for YouTube. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think should everything work out, beginning January 5th, I'll be working for YouTube for at least the next year, working on curation projects for them.
So you have all of the rest of December off?
Pretty much.
Did any of you look at some of the videos I sent you of him? And that's college today. If it's not on YouTube, what's on YouTube?
It's college always.
Exactly. Did you get my note about the questions and a little bit about our project?
I did.
What do you think? Tell them how you found me as well.
So about the project, I was surprised and impressed and bewildered and kind of also overjoyed that you guys have spent what sounds like months poring over videos of twerking, which is kind of an extraordinary project, I think. And you know what? I don't remember. I don't remember exactly how I came to find you. I remember being impressed by your blog and the way that you were sort of fusing that you were putting internet videos into sort of a broader cultural context, which is something that I think very few people are doing, and is something that is worth doing.
Yeah, it was the blog. It was the blog about when the Like a Girl campaign by Always came out with this, you know, the Throw Like a Girl.
That's it.
I put a blog up doing a little cultural critique about it on my blog. So we've been vlogging every week, and I want you to know I'm really upset that my Siri dictation won't hear vlog. It keeps turning it off whenever I do voice dictation. But we've been vlogging every week, almost 10 weeks. Do you guys have questions? He's been like, you've been vlogging as well, right?
I have. I just started this year. The reason for it was twofold. One was because of this job, I was going to be on camera for the first time, which is something that I have avoided for 36 years.
We missed a little of what you just said. Say it again. It was a little transmission problem.
Sure. I started vlogging this year, and the reasons for it were twofold. One was I was going to be on camera for this show, and being on camera was something that I had avoided for 36 years and was finally getting pushed to do. So I saw vlogging as a way to get more comfortable with being on the camera. And then also I was interested in learning more about vlogging and the reasons behind it and what people get from it, just for my own edification. Having worked in viral video for 5 years, I had never really given much weight to the creator space on YouTube, especially vlogging, which I had always sort of just dismissed as being vanity, basically. But as I started vlogging for myself, I came to sort of better understand the vlogging as a creative process and what everyone kind of gets out of it, and it really changed my perspective greatly on a lot of what happens on YouTube.
What did it change for you?
I think that one of the things that I came to understand was the value of community on YouTube. I come from the part of the internet where community is awful, where it's all negative comments and people waiting to tear things down. And what I've discovered on YouTube is that while that element does exist, YouTube is more or less a social network, and through vlogging, people, even if they're not looking to build a huge audience and become a YouTube superstar or anything like that, they still manage to find people who share their interests and are able to use those commonalities to build this sense of togetherness, and that is something that is special, I think, especially in terms of entertainment in general. There isn't really sort of that two-way road that exists elsewhere in entertainment.
The two-way.
Yeah. And the other thing is I came to appreciate the craft that goes into vlogging, because it's hard to do. I mean, number one, it's hard to do it right. Number two, there are aesthetics that have been created around vlogging. So there are things that are sort of expectations, and there are these creative bits that I had always sort of dismissed as being basically amateur work before, but now I understand the amount of time and effort that goes into creating a good vlog.
Some of you all feel like you got that? Yeah, how much time it goes in? How much time goes into it? It's, yeah.
I made my first iMovie. Kind of helped me a little bit, but like, you don't understand. It took me an hour, and it's horrible.
It's probably awesome in the sense of you have a leg up on people who just watch videos.
Yeah, you guys know what's going on.
And everything you did first was horrible. I don't mean you.
Oh, everybody.
Everybody. First time you rode a bike. First day of school. Doesn't go well. You don't know, as an adult. You don't know where anything is. And yet, it's the path to real progress.
Right.
Yeah. Anybody else want to answer the question or say anything? I want to know about those aesthetics, those key aesthetics, because I mean, we've done 10 vlogs, but they're still newbies. We're still newbies.
Oh,
So it's great to know what those aesthetics are that you know.
First, I do want to say that when I go back and I look at my first vlogs, it's so embarrassing because of the fact that I didn't take it seriously. Like I did it on my phone's camera. There's no light. The audio is terrible. It's just awful. But so with regard to the aesthetics, there are a couple of things that I know that I dismissed just out of hand from the very beginning. One of those things was the use of jump cuts, which I had always just assumed was people with little editing experience just doing their best to sort of cut out the ums and ahs from their vlogs. But
That would
but now I understand much better, like how effective the use of those jump cuts are because of the nature of watching videos online. It's different from when you're watching television or movies and you're just sitting back. When you're watching videos, it's a much more active experience, and people have to fight a compulsion to click away. So the more that you can do to speed things up and keep things going, to keep delivering on whatever your original premise is, the better an opportunity you have to get people to last through the end of the video. So that's something I fully appreciate now. And another thing that I appreciate now that I didn't before, I used to think of this as like a Dora the Explorer thing. I could never understand why people were so close to their cameras before. But now I understand.
I'm sorry, so close to what?
So why people sat so close to their cameras, why their faces were so large in the frames. And now I understand that there's a reason and a usefulness behind that too, which is that it creates kind of a greater sense of intimacy. I think of YouTube as, in television, people used to talk about, in the television industry used to talk about inviting people on television into your living rooms. And with YouTube, I think it's different. I think it's more like inviting someone into your bedroom. It's like that level of closeness and intimacy, and being that much closer to the camera, I think aids in that. And so those are just like a couple of the things that I've sort of come to understand the value of throughout all of this, and through watching so many vlogs for work.
Can you just describe briefly, since most of us don't know exactly what a jump cut looks like?
So in editing, a jump cut is basically when a jump cut is any time that there is a cut in the action that is not. It's hard. It's easier to show it than to define it. It's basically.
Can you send us after your favorite jump cuts? Send us a jump cut later, and I'll share it with them.
Yeah.
That you like.
When you see it, you know instantly what it is, though, because it's basically a cut in the action where most of the video remains the same, but because there's this bit that's been cut out, it doesn't feel logical. You are aware of the cut is basically the thing with that.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions about anything, about YouTube, about blogging, about bedroom culture and our data? I mean, he's a video editor, he's been a curator at YouTube. Yeah. Just make sure you speak loud enough. He'll tell us if he can't hear us. Yeah.
So what do you think about why black girls twerk in their bedrooms and put it on YouTube?
I think all girls twerk in their bedrooms and put them on YouTube, but I think that with black girls twerking on YouTube in particular, I think that there's kind of a sense that, number one, the most obvious thing is it's a way to easily be seen. Like when you've seen other people doing something, you know that it is something that you yourself can do to be seen in the same way. And I think that there's also kind of an expectation that this is kind of the domain of black girls on YouTube is twerking, for better or for worse. One of the most interesting things that I've seen over the past couple of years is that while there is this steady stream of videos being uploaded from black girls twerking, it's actually videos of white girls twerking that are the ones that tend to become popular and go viral. And part of that is that there's this sort of ironic context that people put it into, that like, here's a white girl who should not be able to do this very well, who is doing it expertly. And I think that I think you can look at that in a different way also, which is that if you look at the twerk team, for instance, which is this group of girls from Atlanta who have been posting twerking videos on YouTube since, I think, yeah. So they've been doing it for years, but when Miley Cyrus begins twerking on YouTube, then that's the thing that takes off and makes it into something that's worth talking about. Meanwhile, they've continued to upload videos and have had sort of the same level of audience and engagement, despite the fact that twerking itself has become a much larger topic of discussion.
Hey, do you know that twerking may have spread on YouTube because of Katrina?
I didn't. I was unaware of Katrina's impact on twerking. That is something I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more about.
So twerking began in New Orleans in the late 1980s. Mm-hmm. And when 4,000 people were dispersed, especially from the Ninth Ward, all throughout the United States without their music and without their community of music. That was 2005, August 2005. YouTube launched that year. So this was a way that they could share music when they were in disparate places.
I think that would make sense. Also, it sort of fits into this, the very first thing that I ever really got into in a big way on YouTube was the chicken noodle soup dance.
Yes.
I don't know. And
Harlem.
Yeah, that was actually my one of my very first interests in YouTube, was the way that all of these different regional dances were being spread across the U.S. by people seeing the videos on YouTube and copying the dances. There was chicken noodle soup, there was twerking, there was turfing in the Bay Area, and it was just one of the, to me, it was the thing that showed me the power of YouTube, and that it was able to essentially transmit this information in a way that that had really been restricted to places like MTV and radio in the past.
Questions?
What was the thing from Bay?
You have to speak loud so you can hear you.
What was the thing from Bayshore that you just said?
From the Bay Area.
Oh, yeah, from the Bay Area. It was turfing, and it's just it's TURF.
Turfing.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. In Google. Search. There's there's a bunch of dances. One of my colleagues, Wayne Marshall, is a Jamaican DJ who studied a bunch of black dances among teens, because there was a long spate in which there were no new black dances until chicken noodle soup. It was just like, they were all like dances from Jamaica, the pepper seed, the bogle. They were all from outside the United States until this phenomenon of YouTube dance videos started coming from regional areas. So there's some dances out of Chicago, some out of Atlanta, Houston, different areas. Questions? about him, about his career, about getting into, what do you think they could do with the experience that they learned about YouTube? And then I want to ask you, what kind of space do you think YouTube is?
Um, I think that maybe there's more value in the process and approach to doing what you guys have done that is useful than anything else. I really do feel like there is a need for people who are able to basically take the world of web video seriously and apply cultural critique to it. I mean, we're only just now getting to this point with video games, for instance, where people like Anita Sarkeesian are making these amazing videos discussing the feminist impact of video games, or anti-feminist impact. And I would hope that we can get to that place a lot sooner with web video than we got to it with video games. With regard to what kind of a space is YouTube, what do you mean by space?
Well, we have a clip in one of last year when my students were doing the first of this project. We made a video with with our, I think it was with one of the students' Instagram apps, where every 10 seconds someone would say YouTube is my, and it was like YouTube is my calculus tutor, YouTube is my, YouTube is my source of ratchet, was what one student said. YouTube is, so I mean, it's a no place, right? It doesn't exist in any one place. But it's this space where people connect. Like, what kind of space is YouTube? And especially for you, both personally but professionally as well. What do you see?
I think YouTube is the new library at Alexandria. I think it is the single place where all of our cultural knowledge is being stored right now.
You good? Questions? What did you learn about YouTube? So, I always find that when I bring guests, I brought a 17-year-old who wrote a book from Syosset, Long Island, that totally, impressed all of my students in my political sociology class. And I was like, he's, up in you. You should get your stuff together. Or when I bring people to the class or online, that you don't think, oh, this might be my opportunity to make a connection. I may never meet this person again. So at the very least, especially since it's online, I would want to ask them to remember. And, I mean, you never know what your future is, especially with the internet. And you actually get to meet him, even if it is virtual. Yeah.
I have a personal question. Many years ago, my name is Henry.
We'll do this now.
Many years ago, my little brother told me that if we send in a video to break.com, we can make money. And I asked him what kind of videos, and he said videos of getting hurt or accidents. So I just wanted to ask you what makes a viral video, or what did you look for when you were choosing videos for break.com?
So number one, videos of people unexpectedly getting hurt was kind of the bread and butter, just general fail videos. But beyond that, I think that the thing that I was always looking for was kind of the unexpected, and that could take a couple of different forms. One was in the video itself. If there is a video of a person getting hurt, does it happen in a way that we haven't seen before? Because we've seen lots of videos of people falling off of skateboards, and so that was one thing. But the other thing was, is it a kind of video that we haven't ever seen before? One of my favorite things that I ever published on break.com that we licensed from someone was a short film. And I just remember watching the film and thinking, this is one of the funniest things that I've seen in forever, and it's not from a known quantity, it's not from a known filmmaker or anything, it's just this thing that appeared out of nowhere and I think is great. And so that was the thing that I was generally looking for. But it was also highly subjective. For much of 2010 through 2012, and then again in late 2013, like a lot of Break.com is just mainly either my perspective and sense of humor or this other guy who is also running the site.
Thanks.
I'm going to ask. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say that here's an interesting thing about running a site like Break.com, which is dedicated to viral content and videos of fails and also of twerking, which is that there's sort of like an interesting cultural influence that you would not expect, but exists, which is that publishing videos with people of color or with women in them could be really problematic as a publisher, because number one, there was always this fear of sort of promoting images that were unhealthy, or number two, even if you weren't promoting images that were unhealthy, of having to deal with an audience that came to the site with a lot of negative baggage. So frequently, it would even cause us to not want to publish videos with people of color because of the context that the video would be placed in as soon as the comments started appearing under the videos. It was one of probably the biggest difficulties that I have had with running these kinds of websites, and honestly that I continue to have. It's a thing that made me, it's what allowed me to finally understand why Dave Chappelle was able to walk away from doing the Chappelle Show. Because even though he was putting out things that he thought were funny and that his audience would find funny, he was also aware of the way that other audiences would sort of take in that content and the ways that it might sort of help reinforce some of their more negative stereotypes. It's really one of the, it's probably the longest struggle that I've had from my days at Stupid Videos through present. In fact, we had a similar issue with regard to twerking, or just close to twerking, which is at YouTube Nation, which is we'd had so many videos, music videos on the show that featured people like Iggy Azalea and others that showcased, for better or for worse, their butts and dancing. And then when Nicki Minaj's Anaconda video came out, I really wanted to have that video in our show. Number one, because it was the #1 most viewed video on YouTube for days on end. But number two, I felt like we needed to have it in the show to achieve some sort of parity, because we really did not have many videos at all featuring people of color in YouTube Nation. And I thought that it was only fair that we have this one when we've had so many others from featuring white rappers and singers, and we didn't get to have it in the show. It was deemed too sexy.
Do you think that, so I wrote an article earlier this year or last year about YouTube as a participatory democracy space, this place where people could make videos like Anita Sarkeesian and find an audience for them. So you could make a video about Ferguson or, about Mike Brown and find an audience for it. But what I've been noticing is that if it's a black subject, the traffic is just not even close to something for things that are really political or meaningful to a lot of people. They don't get a lot of traffic. So in the realm of hip hop, when I first started looking at YouTube, so all of the major conscious rappers, they don't have a lot of views. Like Chuck D, they don't have a lot of views. The founders of hip hop, they don't have a lot of views. And I mean, interviews that you will never find if it was before YouTube, you would have to go to the South Bronx to get. The roots of almost every culture on YouTube, but not a lot of views.
I think that, so that's sort of the flip side of being a democratic space, which is that the marketplace for these videos is going to always sort of veer toward whatever the larger portion of the audience or culture at the time is interested in. But I think, like, I mean, honestly, that's kind of why we have a representative democracy in our country. It's to protect the interests of the minority groups and to sort of be able to help expand their access to government. And that's sort of the role that curators play as well, which is on any given day, 100 hours of video are being uploaded to YouTube every hour. So actually, I think it may be every minute.
I think it's every minute.
Yeah, it's 100 hours of video uploaded every minute, and so it's the role of other people to sort of sift through that and to bring those videos to a broader audience, because there's almost no way that most of the videos on YouTube will ever be seen by anyone or by more than 10 people, because there's just too much.
Do you think that curation is an unexplored realm for, like, emerging adults out of college to think about as a role for them to play in their community or in society?
Yeah, I think that most people, I mean, I was unaware that it was something that I could actually make a career of, and I think that other people are probably equally unaware. I think that most people are aware that you can be a blogger about a topic, for instance, and that in the course of that blogging, you may also act as a curator, bringing videos, pictures, and other articles of interest to an audience. But it's also still entirely possible to do that with video. On the sometimes seeming unfortunate side, that's what the guys who run World Star Hip Hop have managed to do. They managed to take curation of this thing that was largely unexplored and turn it into a website and a business. Not a successful business, because they traffic in things that nobody wants to advertise next to, but still, they've been able to turn World Star Hip Hop into a well-known brand.
So that's interesting. What do you mean by not a successful business?
Well, I can preface this by saying I used to run this site briefly called nothingtoxic.com, and it is gone from the internet now. It is not a site that you would ever want to go to. It was just like the worst stuff, just fight videos and car crashes and things. It was one of the first things I did when I worked for Break Media. And we eventually closed that site down because although it had a large audience, I think it was 250,000 people a day came to that website, no advertisers in their right mind would want to put their ads next to that kind of material. And World Star Hip Hop has a lot of the same problem. Fortunately, there are companies that have an interest in being next to, at least in the hip hop space or hip hop tangential space, but it's different from like Break.com, which had ads from pretty much every major corporation because it had a sizable audience and content that was acceptable.
Do you think that it might lead to what I would call a 21st century digital divide that plays out, for example, in that the heads of World Star Hip Hop will have to cater to a very particular niche that can't go broad because the content is something people don't want to be associated with? Kind of like in the old days, people didn't want to be associated with black people because of their skin color. Or
I think that's already the case, and that it will continue to be the case. I mean, it's unfortunate that you can, even if World Star Hip Hop were able to reach 100% of its intended audience, which would be amazing, they never will be able to have people, big advertisers, work with them because of what they put out. But here's the interesting thing, to me anyway, that sort of highlights this digital divide that you're talking about, which is that Vice Media can publish whatever they want and have content that is as risque or as edgy as anything World Star Hip Hop publishes, but because of their context and because they're publishing it for this different audience, then it makes them a more acceptable brand to advertise with. And in fact, advertisers seek them out because of who they are.
what's the different audience? Who?
Vice's audience is a young, urban, largely white, but not only white audience. So when they publish videos with Big Frida twerking, then it's acceptable because of the way that it's being presented and who it's being presented to, versus any of the people on World Star Hip Hop who are twerking.
So this is about a transparency problem. Most people don't see this. They don't understand that this is happening when they watch, for example, YouTube or World Star Hip Hop.
Yeah, it's to me, it's one of the things that remains the most unfortunate aspect of what should be this greater democratization that the web is providing. It's really just, in many ways, just reinforcing a lot of the divides that have always existed and probably will continue to.
And isn't it seemingly a little more insidious because most people think that YouTube is a real democracy?
Yeah, this is actually an argument that I had with coworkers just a couple of weeks ago about whether YouTube is a democracy or not, and I don't think that it is.
What do you guys think? Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of unexpected, I would have never guessed such a earnest and intimate man could be running such a site like nothingtoxic.com, and
most people are surprised, but yeah, it was honestly, it was very difficult, and it's one of the things that has led me to sort of change my perspective on the potential effects of media on audiences, which is that in watching all the videos that I had to watch to publish that site, it actually made me more paranoid about the world. I saw so many videos of people just getting hit by cars that it made me afraid to cross the street. I would look both ways 8 times before crossing the street. And I went into that job already being a huge and voracious consumer of videos. But when you see the same images over and over and over again, they really do begin, at least I feel anyway, that they really do begin to have an effect on your worldview.
Yeah, that's why I've been interested in studying twerking videos. I'm interested in how that impacts, because the top demographic that I noticed, so in June of 2013, YouTube and Google took the public statistics off of everybody's videos.
Yeah.
Before then, Yeah, before then you could see that girls 13 to 17 were running the top demographic in a lot of the most explicit rap videos. And there's this funny screen grab that I have from one of the YouTube help pages that says something like, why do females 13 to 17 make videos go viral? And the answer was, who knows? And I thought, that is so feminist, like so discriminatory, so biasing the audience to that girls are here just, they're fangirls. They don't have any real, significance on YouTube, even though they're driving most of the eyes to some of the most popular. And that music videos are the most popular videos on YouTube.
Yeah, they by wide and far. I think that one of the more interesting things to me about twerking and twerking videos is, I think that, so this just goes back to the effect of media, and it sort of fits in with what Anita Sarkeesian is talking about with video games, which is that
we missed right before Anita. We missed.
One of the just with twerking videos, I think that seeing so many of these videos sort of lowers this bar, and so I think that whether you think that making twerking videos is positive or negative, it's more acceptable, at least to young girls, in a way that was not true 5 years ago, or really even 3 years ago. It's but now it's just seen as kind of a thing that you do, more or less.
Any other questions?
I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about the work that you guys have done.
Just like you watch a lot of videos of people getting hit by cars, we've watched so many twerking videos, it's crazy.
So go ahead.
How has it changed or reinforced the way that you feel about twerking videos or just young girls on YouTube?
It makes it more of like a complex idea. Before it was just so simplistic that girls just shake their ass. Then you actually go on YouTube and you see all the different ways and the different types of people that do it. That just shows you that it's not just one thing, and that there's so much more that you need to understand to really get it.
Did it make you a fan of the better of those videos, or did it sort of turn you against them?
Fans.
Yeah.
This is in the middle. Occupy Moon says, and now I'm even more adamant. I'm going to guide them through a couple of questions. I asked you at the beginning to interview people about what they thought, and you got some views of their perceptions. What were the perceptions that people had that told you, so we can get a sense?
Oh yeah, they were like.
They did 3 interviews with people before we began, saying, "Hey, I'm taking a class on black girls twerking on YouTube. What do you think?" And I asked them to look at the behavior, their nonverbal cues. So what were the reactions? Elaine.
Well, a lot of them think it's a phenomenon. I also thought the same thing going into it. I didn't really understand what exactly it was that made it so viral.
Do you mean phenomenon like fad?
Yeah, like it was we thought it was recent, like that it popped up because Miley Cyrus did it. So then, because of that, and everyone saw it, they wanted to replicate that, and that's why it blew up on YouTube. But then we did more research, and we realized that it was way before, like years before, and I never knew that. I thought it was just something that happened recently.
So that tells you something about how people interact on the archive. They think what's in front of them is now, and they don't explore anything beyond it. What about when you were searching? I asked you to then go do Google searches and talk to me about the results. Go find black girls. Imagine you're a black girl looking for black girls twerking. How do you find them? What do you find? I asked them to look up twerking, white girls twerking, black girls twerking, look in other, ratchet girls, ratchet twerking, all of the things. Before I do that, what were some of the facial reactions and physical responses to the interviews?
Must be lucky.
Huh? Oh, loud.
You must be lucky.
Really? I don't remember that. What else?
They were shocked.
People were shocked. Jen?
Like for the interview, I have one interesting thing.
You have to come close because the accent.
For the interview, I have one interesting thing is I interviewed one girl who told me the interesting opinion is like she says the twerking is like a kind of exercise to losing the weight.
Twerking is a kind of exercise.
Like she told me she wants to try. Like
She wants to try it.
yeah, she says that some girl was big and then they don't like to exercise, but twerking is much fun and then they want to try. Yeah, that's interesting.
That is an element that even I was unaware of.
Actually, one of the first things that there's a black woman who's a choreographer who teaches twerking on YouTube to a lot of people. She's really good. She's fun. And she does it for exercise and for dance fitness. Leela, did you?
Oh, it's just faster squats.
It's just faster squats, she says. So what about the searching? What did you discover yet?
Well,
Can you hear?
Oh yeah.
it's just like you said earlier. On YouTube, white girls twerking is more popular. Like when you just simply put in twerking, there'll be like on the first page, first 2 pages, most of them, like 95% of them will be like white girls, and then a sporadic few would be black girls or other ethnicity. But when you go deep into it, like even the ones that come up popular aren't the ones that I've noticed during the collection of the data, because like the ones that you would see aren't. There's such a wide variety of black girls twerking. It's like they could be young, they could be in their teens, or they could be older, and it seems some of them have like different reasons to do it. Some do it for fun, like oh, it's a gathering, or I'm just literally doing it for fun, or some do it like as if they somehow enjoy the comments they get, like the sexual comments that they end up getting, like maybe it's the attention that they lack in society, I would say, and that's what I got from it.
Well, maybe that they're finding in society, because if you think of YouTube as just an extension of society, just in a digital realm, then they are finding the attention that they're seeking. Maybe they live in remote places where the audience maybe like I'm from Oklahoma, and many of the towns around the city that I grew up in have just thousands of people, which is, I'm sure, fewer than the population just at your college alone. So for people from rural areas, going online onto YouTube is a way to find those audiences and that attention that they seek.
That's very true. I didn't really think about that, because it's so hard to tell at all from the videos where the girls are from or like where they're located. I mean, sometimes I can't even tell whether they're in the U.S. or not. It's even like, I mean, music travels, so like even if you're trying to tell what music they're dancing to, it's so hard. Like they're in an enclosed space, you can't really tell.
Yeah, I have a lot more skill because I know the genres and I know the music, and I know that Bay Area girls don't even do the same thing as LA girls. And so I have a lot.
It reminds me of an article I read where Eminem was discussing the use of the word yo in rap, and how each of the different regions would use yo differently.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting. This has been, I think, much more difficult, and maybe I should acknowledge, this has been a really difficult ethnographic project because just like you do on YouTube, you don't meet the people that you curate the content from generally, and you make assumptions and you make judgments and you make, you know, judgment calls about what it means or what it means to whom and all of those things. And there's a phenomenon called context collapse, where the shared context, like, where are you right now?
Los Angeles.
What part of Los Angeles?
Mid-city.
Mid-city. Don't know anything about that, right? Anybody? So that means something to you, and we don't share that. We're in Midtown, or Lower Midtown, Gramercy Park. Where are we?
Flatiron.
Flatiron. You cool? You got us? You know where we are?
Oh, yeah, I lived in New York for a couple of years.
It's not there.
And then, you know, if we started talking about something that was familiar to you but had a local flavor that we just didn't express, then you have context collapse. Or if you have a perception about black girls twerking, you bring your meaning with you while you're watching something. So until you live with it for a long time. So what Leela's talking about to me is, like, if we had a whole year, these two classes, if we had 2 semesters, they begin to see something about the complexity of, I mean, Elaine in the early part was noticing how the webcam shapes things. Brian said something recently about the screen. And I'm like, you know, just before when we had the tech breakdown, Leela brought her iPad mini up, and I said that it would show on the screen. So there's the screen over there. There's a screen on your iPad mini. She was cleaning the screen on the iPad mini, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with the transmission. So, I mean, there's all of these ways that this is a really complex field site to do research. Because then there's also how you look and what your room looks like. And do you clean up your room before do you have a space set up for where you do your blogs?
Well, until 6 months ago, I lived in a studio apartment, so I only had one room. But I try to clean it because I don't want people to know how much of a slob I really am.
And do you think that that's, given that web video and digital video is going to be the way that we interact more and more for work, for play, but particularly for work and for school, that people really need to pay attention to their digital presentation?
I think so, for a couple reasons. In film, one of the things that you learn about is mise en scène. That is everything that exists within the frame, and you start to learn to appreciate the thoughtfulness that goes into the presentation of everything that exists within the frame. Nothing is an accident. And the same is true I think, is true maybe to a lesser degree, but it's something that you pick up on when you're watching web videos. You learn a lot about the person by just staring into the backgrounds of their videos. I've had people comment on that cat pillow before, and a lot of people know that I have a cat, and because of that, they understand the importance of my cat to me. And it's so being thoughtful in your presentation and the things that you allow to be seen within the frame, I think is of the utmost importance, because you're always transmitting ideas about who you are.
And so this is why adolescent girls, how we've been coding age and class has been from the background. It's I was just looking at a video that I can't remember who coded it, but it was we've been collecting data that's been focusing on young girls, but sometimes we have older girls or women in the data set because the title says teen, and somebody used that, right? But there was a video, and she was in an absolutely bare, she looked like she was 22, 23, absolutely bare bedroom with a sheet on the bed, like a double-sized bed. And I was like, that's her boyfriend's apartment. Because women don't have nothing at all on anything. There was nothing in the space, nothing. I was like, she's dancing for her boyfriend. So, I mean, just things that you have to piece together. It's almost like we've all had experiences. I've been in somebody else's bedroom who's been like that, and they've never been a woman. It's always been a guy, my cousins, and I'm sure there's an exception out there, but what we're doing all the time on YouTube is we're guessing about the context all the time.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Yeah, and that leaves a lot of room for interpretation. So black girls may be doing themselves harm, well, anybody could be doing themselves harm for later in life when these videos don't disappear.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, too, which is that we all know now about the permanence of things that go on the internet, that even if you upload a video to YouTube and delete it, it's entirely possible that someone could simply have downloaded it and re-uploaded it. And so I think that a lot of people are doing themselves maybe a long-term disservice, but I also believe that a lot of the younger people who are creating videos on YouTube are more media literate and are more media savvy than a lot of older people, and you can see this in their videos. That frequently I watch videos from 13-year-olds where I'm looking at their editing techniques and thinking, I have to learn how to do that. And
yeah, but
similarly, I think they also, not everyone to be sure, but I think a lot of people are somewhat aware of the fact that that what they're putting in the frame is how they're presenting themselves to people. It's their portrait of themselves for other people, for better or for worse.
So if it's your ass,
yeah,
it's the primary face of your.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? Questions? Comments?
Is it sunny in LA?
It is sunny and beautiful. I just got back from Oklahoma where it was freezing, and I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, no, it's because I was looking at his face and the light looks like it's from the sun. And I'm thinking wow, it's snowing over here. Meanwhile, it's sunny over there. It's just crazy.
I feel like I'm showing off then.
Thank you so much, Ernest, for coming.
No problem. I had a blast. It was nice to meet all of you guys.
I'm glad you came all the way to New York to be with us. And this has been pretty amazing, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
But it's stupid.
Good question.
When you work from YouTube, could you work from home?
When I was working at YouTube Nation, I worked in an office. Actually, for all of the jobs that I've had, I've worked in an office. But when I go to work for YouTube in January, I'll be working from home.
Awesome.
Is that going to be difficult?
No, in fact, I think I will prefer it. Actually, briefly, when I was doing Nothing Toxic, I would work from home about 60% of the time because I didn't want people looking at my computer. And 40% of the time I'd be in the office. And that was actually kind of a great mix because working at home, you have kind of a focus that you can't get in an office, but being in an office, you get the serendipity of being able to talk to other people and bounce ideas off of each other.
Can I ask you one more thing? What's your favorite video of late? What's the favorite video you've curated of late that you're like, you got to watch this?
Of late?
Yeah, or ever.
I'll tell you my favorite video of all time, the one that I watch whenever I just need a smile. Like probably once a month, I watch this video called Bert and Ernie Try Gangsta Rap, which is somebody made this video of Bert and Ernie synced up to MOP's Annie Up, which
I've seen it. Oh, that's awesome.
That is my favorite video of all time.
Bert Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street doing an MOP rap song. It's really awesome. Anything else? Thank you so much, Ernest. This is a great, great conversation. I think we actually could use some of it in our video. Thank you. Can you? Bye.
Bye.
That's pretty awesome.